There's a person sitting in the room right now who already knows something is wrong and hasn't said a word. They caught it the moment you walked in. The slight tension in your jaw, the way your laugh came half a second too late, the smile that moved your mouth but never quite reached your eyes. They didn't analyze it. They didn't try. Their brain just reported the truth the way a tongue reports salt. And now they're sitting with that knowledge quietly, alone, because they've learned that saying it out loud only makes things worse. Most people call this a gift, sharp intuition, rare intelligence, a superpower. But here's what no one tells you. Seeing everything comes with a price that slowly bleeds a person dry. And today, we're going to break down the psychology of people who see what others don't, why their minds work the way they do, the 3 psychological traps that can destroy them, and exactly how they can turn this burden into something extraordinary. So, why their brain works differently. To understand this, we need to pull spirituality completely off the table and look at the neuroscience. The human brain is constantly filtering information. Every second, your senses collect roughly 11 million bits of data, but your conscious mind only processes about 40. The rest gets discarded. For most people, this filter is generous. It smooths over inconsistencies, fills in gaps with assumptions, and lets social life feel simple and comfortable. But for highly perceptive people, the filter works differently. Their brain runs what neuroscientists call hyperactive pattern detection, an overactive recognition system that doesn't wait for obvious signals. Where the average brain only registers a pattern once it clears the noise, this brain is pulling patterns out of the noise itself. It is scanning constantly, automatically, whether the person wants it to or not. Think of it this way. Most people are watching a clean, edited version of life. What they see is comfortable, coherent, complete. You're watching the raw footage, uncut, unfiltered, every contradiction still in the frame. And here's the specific mechanism behind it. The brain is always making predictions, tiny, unconscious forecasts about what comes next in a conversation, a face, a room. When reality matches the prediction, the brain barely registers it. When it doesn't, it fires an error signal. Most people have a high threshold for these mismatches. Their brain absorbs small inconsistencies and moves on. But a highly perceptive person has what researchers call predictive error sensitivity, an unusually low threshold for flagging when something doesn't add up. The gap between what's being said and what's actually happening doesn't have to be wide. A hair's width is enough to trip the alarm. Dr. Paul Ekman spent decades studying what he called micro-expressions, involuntary facial movements that flash across a person's face in as little as 1/25th of a second, revealing the emotion they're actively trying to conceal. Most people never consciously register them. For perceptive individuals, catching them isn't a skill. It's a reflex. The predictive error fires before the conscious mind even knows what it caught. When a colleague says, "I'm really happy for you," the perceptive person isn't just hearing the words. They're catching the halftone rise in pitch. The smile that activates the mouth but leaves the eyes completely still. The flicker of something sharp and unpleasant that crosses the face in the blink between sentences. The words and the body don't match. Error flagged. And the alarm doesn't come with an off switch. But here's where it gets heavier. Seeing the inconsistency is one thing. Understanding what's underneath it is something else entirely. When hyperactive pattern detection merges with what psychologists call theory of mind, the ability to model another person's inner world, the perceptive person doesn't just catch the deception. They see straight through to the wound underneath it. The boss who screams and controls? They see a terrified child who never learned another way to feel safe. The person who brags relentlessly? They see a hollow core desperately searching for proof it deserves to exist. That sounds like an advantage, and in some ways it is. But in practice, it walks them straight into 3 psychological traps that can quietly destroy them. Trap 1. The accidental villain. In Greek mythology, the prophetess Cassandra was given a divine gift, the ability to see truth and predict the future with perfect accuracy. Apollo also gave her a curse. No one would ever believe her. Perceptive people live this curse in slow motion every single day. They walk into a business meeting and immediately sense the hidden tension between 2 colleagues, the unspoken resentment, the territorial posturing dressed up as collaboration. They say something, they name what they're observing, and instead of gratitude, they receive cold silence, defensive stares, and suddenly, they are the problem. Because when you expose what people are working hard to hide, you become the threat. You become the person who makes others feel seen in ways they never consented to. And socially, that gets you punished. Over time, Perceptive people learn to stay quiet. Trap 2. The contamination of cynicism. Constantly seeing beneath the surface of human behavior does something dangerous to a person's inner world. It begins to poison it. What starts as sharp awareness gradually curdles into a reflex assumption. Everyone is hiding something. Everyone is performing. Nothing is real. Remember, this is a brain built on hyperactive pattern detection. It is designed to find patterns. And once it has been conditioned by years of catching real deception, it doesn't stop. It starts manufacturing patterns even where they don't exist. A friend who cancels plans becomes a passive signal of rejection. A partner's good mood becomes suspicious. A stranger's kindness triggers the quiet question, what do they want? This is the trap of hypervigilance. The nervous system, now treating the entire world as a threat environment, never fully rests. Exhaustion becomes the baseline. Trust becomes impossible. And isolation, which began as a side effect, becomes a permanent state of being. Trap 3. The mirror that turns inward. The cruelest trap is the last one. When you spend your life reading other people's hidden fears and insecurities, eventually the same machinery turns on you. The person who can spot every crack in someone else's mask begins to obsessively inspect their own. They overanalyze their motivations. They question whether their kindness is genuine or performative. They dissect their own emotions with the same ruthless clarity they apply to the world around them. And what they find rarely feels clean or simple. The predictive error system that flags inconsistencies in other people starts flagging inconsistencies in themselves. Did I mean that? Was that genuine? Am I overthinking or seeing something real? The mind that was built to see truth becomes a courtroom where the perceptive person is simultaneously the prosecutor, the defendant, and the judge. And the trial never ends. Here's what separates the people who are destroyed by this awareness from the people who are transformed by it. It isn't intelligence. It isn't willpower. It's a single critical shift in how they use what they see. 1. Observation without absorption. Seeing is not the same as carrying. Perceptive people must learn to process what they notice without taking responsibility for it. You can see someone's pain without becoming its custodian. You can recognize a lie without making it your burden to expose it. The information belongs to you, not to the situation. 2. Strategic disclosure. Not every truth needs to be spoken. The perceptive person's greatest social skill isn't their ability to see, it's learning when seeing is useful, and when silence is the wiser move. Wisdom is knowing the difference between insight and intrusion. 3. Turning the lens into leverage. The same capacity that makes these people exhausted in ordinary social environments makes them extraordinary in the right ones. Therapists, negotiators, writers, leaders who build real trust because the people around them feel genuinely understood. Not managed, not handled, understood. The gift doesn't need to be hidden. It needs to be aimed. I'll be sharing more videos like this on psychology and self-understanding. Subscribe if this content resonates with you.